Hi folks, Chuck Sampson, proud superintendent of the Freehold Regional High School District. I want to take a couple minutes today to address the school community at large about the proposed budget from Governor Phil Murphy and the state aid impacts to the Freehold Regional High School District. As you might have heard, the proposed budget has a reduction of $6.7 million in the state aid to the Freehold Regional High School District. While we were anticipating a $2.1 million reduction due to the passage of Senate Bill 2, which has changed how school funding works in New Jersey, needless to say, we were caught off guard with the amount of the additional increase in those reductions. And we've pursued this for almost 6 years at this point in time. We think that S2, the legislation that changed how funding was appropriated in New Jersey for schools, doesn't always take into account some of the anomalies of a regional high school district like our own and some of the efficiencies that we experience. So long story short, by the end of this budget cycle, we will be $20 million under adequacy under the proposed budget put forth by Governor Murphy last week. What that means is the state establishes a number of what you should spend for the children that are within your system in order to educate them. We will be $20 million below that number. And for reference, when we have a 2% cap on the tax levy, we generate approximately $2.8 million a year. So in other words, we will never be able to close that adequacy gap. The final state budget won't be formally adopted until June, and there'll be a lot of conversation between local legislators, state legislators, and the governor's office prior to that time. And I'm just directing our school community to our webpage explaining the impacts of S2 on the Freehold Regional High School District and how you can advocate for improvements to the funding of our schools from across the state. We've disagreed with S2 from the start. We were part of a lawsuit of several districts that really tried to get at increased transparency from the state in terms of how these numbers come to be. For the Freehold Regional High School District, we are the lowest per pupil spending in the county of Monmouth at about $14,000 a student. So we spend less than every single other district per pupil in Monmouth County. Now, we do some of that through efficiencies, but also through the fact that we have now, at this point in time, will have been slashed $28 million if something doesn't change in terms of our state aid. And for perspective, in 2015 or so, we received approximately $50 million in state aid. We will now be receiving just north of $20 million in state aid. And the genesis of S2 is really that the state believes that our community is not paying enough in taxes. The irony of this is that the income of our school community last year actually went down slightly, but the state's determination of what we should be paying in taxes went up over 10%, hence the unexpected additional cut in state aid. We believe it's really irresponsible post-pandemic to cut this aid from the Freehold Regional High School District in the extravagant amount in which we're being reduced. We think it's dangerous. We think it sends a signal that the governor's administration doesn't necessarily understand the needs of the students that we serve. And I know that over the next several weeks, as we adopt our own budget, which our timeline's very different than the state, our budget will be adopted by the end of April, that there will be a lot of public conversation around reductions, cuts, and how the district will close this massive budget shortfall. So I'm sending this message out to our school community today to help you educate yourselves on what's happening to this school district from state funding, directing you to our webpage where you can learn about the impacts of S2. You can find your contact information for people that represent your particular legislative district. And I'm hoping that our school community will continue to raise our voice and in sharp disagreement with these drastic cuts for the Freehold Regional High School District. To put some other talking points to you, we educate our children here for almost $5,000 less per pupil than the average high school district. Our administrative costs are 25% below the state average, and so we feel very, very confident in are efficiencies. And so I'm bringing this to your attention today so that you can educate yourself in the impact that these pernicious cuts might have on the Freehold Regional High School District. Thank you for taking a few moments to listen to this message.